G'day everyone. My first completed little project for 2024 on the desk in front of you. So I haven't taken the photos yet, so I'll do that later. And I pinned them to the end of this video so you can get a decent look at them. Now, what we've got here are 28mm metal First World War British troops, but they're painted up as Australians because the uniform's essentially the same. The distinctives that make them Australians are the other ranks have brown boots. It's not just the officers who wear brown boots. Australian troops were issued brown boots, and also they've got the patches on the shoulders for the 16th Battalion, and some of them got some other little markings as well. I think there are 3 of them I've done as that they have, you can barely see it, but because it's also scaled down, that they've actually been served in Gallipoli as well. So I'll just give you a quick whiz by, and then I'll try and spend time sort of going through the colours, because I know some of you really like to know what colours I use. I'm not going to take extra time and type up a list for you. I'll put it in the body of the video, and you can always rewind that or pause that or whatever. So here we go. So these are the guys. It's a bit of an angle here, but just picked up the tripod, and I might bring some of them up to the closer to the camera. And there's the officer on the end. So you've got one sergeant and an officer badged up. Okay, so let me just show you what I mean about the markings. Okay, see if we can, there we go, convince that to focus on him. Okay, now it may not show up on the camera, but I'll just find something to point with. Right. So up on the shoulder, oh, don't go out of focus. Stay in focus. Up on the shoulder is the white over blue divisional, not divisional, but well, the battalion patch. Come on, focus. Sorry about this, guys. Maybe a bit further back might do. Yeah, it's basically white over a dark blue, and it's really, at this scale, it's not even going to be visible, but I have painted a teeny weeny tiny capital A for Anzac, which shows that this Sarge was in Gallipoli. Also painted down, trying to get this focus. Oh dear. Yeah. It might not show up, but down here there is a good conduct chevron down here, and there are 2 thin yellow lines that indicate wound. They're wound stripes that he has been wounded before. Now there's a couple of other figures in here that I think there's 2 others that I picked to give the tiny little yellow A over their 16th Battalion patch, and I think there's at least one other that's got, yeah, he's got this guy back here's got a good conduct chevron and 1 yellow stripe to indicate wounded, had received a wound. I mean, that might be about it. But this scale, it's a bit sort of hard to see those things unless they're not, some of those things, the patches aren't sculpted on the figure, whereas the sergeant stripes are. I didn't want to make them too big and exaggerated, but yeah, just to give a suggestion of them. Okay, so let's have a look at the colours, because I'm sure that will interest some of you. Right, what I've done for the battle dress, we started with a base of, what I might do is actually bring the stand down. See if I can do that. And then we can, there we go. Something like that. You can actually see the paints. Okay, so started with a base coat of chocolate chipping from AK Interactive 3rd Gen. So that's that. And then I use a mucky old wash, like insert what your favourite wash, Agrax Earth Shade or whatever it might be, strong tone. I don't mind. Mine's a bit of an old one that once it's gone, and I'll mix up something else from this, that, and the other. It's like a murky brown, and it goes on it, and it helps provide, makes the miniature more readable. And then, you know, if it's tinted, the base colouring, it gets painted over anyway, and just left to define the shadows and those lines between different surfaces. Okay, so base, and then wash, and then, so this is battle dress, remember, English uniform, and then final highlight. So that's Vallejo English uniform, and then final highlight, Vallejo green brown. Just excuse the bottle, it's an old Flames of War bottle, but it is Vallejo green brown. Okay, so that's the battle dress. Now with the puttees, I've had the chocolate brown, and the wash, and then back over the chocolate brown, and that's pretty much it, apart from a little bit of a light dusting on some of them from the basing, sort of earthy tones to make it a little bit dusty. Now, the next colour we'll look at is the webbing. Now for the webbing, I went with Vallejo Khaki 115 or 988, Vallejo Khaki, and then wash back in with that, and then a highlight of using Reaper Terran Khaki. I think the numbers fade and the writing fades on these bottles, but I think it's 09122. So that's the highlight for that. Now, yeah. So yeah, obviously in between here, there's a wash layer. We have this wash back in with this. Then that's the final highlight. Okay. Now for the canteens, the actual body of the canteen is done with brown violet, Vallejo brown violet, 887 or 093, depending which number sequence you go by. So that's that. Again, wash back in with this. Now the helmet's done with refractive green. It puts they call it reflective green, but I think that's a bit of a misnaming, because it's meant to be, in reality it was meant to, they painted it with a non-reflective color. They did not want it to be shiny. They want it to be non-reflective, so perhaps it should say non-reflective green. Refract, maybe a better word, refractive green. It refracts the light, I don't know, but anyway, this is the base. Once again, wash back in with this, and then mixing in for the top surfaces of the helmet and the bits that would get the most light, and we're starting to adding in deck tan in small amounts, gradually lightening it up for the actual, the actual dome of the top of the helmet, and the edges are probably the lightest. So that's how we've got the helmeted heads, where they've got the bare, the Brody helmets, the Mark 1s, without a cover. Now, for the other helmet covers, where they used hessian or a sacking or a fabric, I've used Vallejo model colour khaki grey. Okay, so that's 113, or the other numbers 880, khaki grey. Now, I've also used khaki grey on the rifle strap, on the small magazine Lee Enfield rifle strap. Again, it's basically, base, wash, base, and that's what I've done with those. I used a small makeup brush. It's looking a bit tatty now. One of these soft, small makeup brushes that my wife was chucking out, just to do the dry brush on the top of the sacking, because some of them have got that. The hessian has a nice texture sculptured in on these Great Wall miniatures. Okay, so rifle strap, helmet cover. What else? The brown of the boots. I used dark brown for the boots as my base colour. That's an AK 3rd Gen, so that's the boot colour. Now, for the officer, for his, it's a bit hard to see in this light. Now, for his pistol holster and his belt, I used a different leather colour. I started with a base of whole red. So this is the AK 3rd Gen whole red, but you could also use the Vallejo one as the basis. And then that got lightened up with, I believe it could have been these two actually. These are a part of a Vallejo, no, not Vallejo, Reaper leather triad. This one has faded, and I don't even know if I can make it out what it's used to say. I'm trying to read it. Sorry guys, I can't. But it was a part of a triad, of which this is the middle one. Something leather. I'm sorry, this isn't very helpful, but this is one of the downsides of the Reaper paint ranges. The labels just tend to fade terribly. But I can tell you that the final one, which I didn't use, but if you're trying to track down this triad, it ends with this burnt orange. This burnt orange 9111. So if you can find the sequence that ends with that, you'll know you're onto the right triad, and you should better deduce what these others are with their faded labels. So for his red leather work, were sort of, and I put some of this onto his boots as well, just to brighten them up. But yeah, these two we use for the highlights. Let me think. Now, jerkins. We've got three guys with leather jerkins. So they had a base of leather brown, Vallejo model colour, and then back in with this after the wash, and then tiny little, edge highlights and stuff with my mid-tone from that leather triad from Reaper. So you can see the kind of colour that, if that's showing up on the camera. So yeah. So that was some sort of, you might better substitute some other sort of burnt orange brown. So that was that for the jerkins. Now the sheepskin, I used, two of them have got sheepskins. I've done a sort of like a dirty wool sheepskin. I've done it with a base of grey green from AK, base of grey green, and then wash back in with the grey green, and then with the trusty deck tan mixed in to get a highlight on some of the wool fibres and tufts, just to make them stand out a bit more. Okay, so the gas masks as well were painted in the khaki that we talked about before, and for the black parts on the gas mask and on the weapons, I used Vallejo black model colour, black grey. I try to most of the time avoid using straight up black. Prefer to use this or German grey. So I used black grey and then went back in again. Now let me think, what other parts have they got on them today? I have missed little details in these Great War miniatures. Oh yeah, there's some sort of mess tin on the back. They got black grey, and then they got a bit of highlighting with some really dark metal. Some of the edges. You've got the bayonet as well there, black. Oh, sorry, I'm forgetting. Can't see this. There we go. That's the canteen thing on the back. I wasn't sure on that, but I thought I just painted a black metal and put some really dark metal and stuff on it. This guy actually hasn't got his bayonet fixed. He's got it in its scabbard. So they were black with brown wooden handles. Yeah, with some sort of with dark metal fittings. And next to him, this is the handle that slots into the entrenching tool, and the head for the entrenching tool is hidden, is kept in under this flap here. So those two parts would be put together. So I just painted as a wooden. The wooden effect was done for that, and there's another guy with an extra spade there, or shovel. So just sort of done in black and a bit of dark metal on there. So that wood was done with flat earth wash, flat earth again, and then highlighted with a bit of Panzerace's new wood from Vallejo. Now let me think. Is there anything I've missed out? Yeah, the Lewis gun. I basically made that black. Oh, yep, the rifles, the wooden parts of the rifles. Everything else is sort of blackened with some dark steely color on the bayonet itself. Now, the wood for rifles, I have used, Vallejo model color flat brown as my base, then a wash, then back with this, and then final highlight, little stripes of mahogany brown. So it's a different type of wood color than I've used for the entrenching tool handles and stuff, just to keep that distinction. I think that about covers it, listing off all the paints for you. Where you can see their faces, I've painted it with my usual sort of flesh formula, which I probably covered off before. Bit of a 5 o'clock shadow glazed in with some field grey, German field grey. Very, very dilute. That seems to work well for a 5 o'clock shadow effect. So yeah, and I kept the basing quite simple, with just a couple of wild grass tufts. I think, they didn't spend the war wandering around in mud all the time. They had all the 4 seasons, and these guys are late war. I thought I'd do them with drier bases, my sort of normal basing. method. Okay. Sorry. My family in the other room patting the dog, fussing over the dog. You might better hear that. Ah, dear. Okay. Well, there you go, guys. I'm going to put some photos, some stills up at the end. Hopefully that was useful to those of you particularly who like to know what colours. Now, the Great Wall miniatures did have a bit of flash on them. There was a bit of cleanup required. I'm not sure how old these castings are when they were produced, but by the looks of it, some of the moulds look like they need renewing. I found a couple of tiny bits of black rubber that I picked out, which is usually a bad sign. The mould's been knocked about a bit. But yeah, otherwise, apart from that, they're good to paint. They've got a lot of character. The details are nice and clear, and they look good. They look good. They turned out well. Also got some First World War Germans with this lot to paint later on down the line. But I don't think that'll be the next thing I'll be doing. I'll be doing something else. Anyway, guys, thanks for watching. As I said, I'll do some stills and put them at the end. And please let me know if you've got any further questions. And I'll catch you in the next one. Oh, and thanks for everyone who subscribed over the course of the new year. I managed to get over 1,000. So well, there you go. It's taken a few years, but you know, I'm mostly a painter, and not everybody wants to watch videos from a guy who mostly does painting. Yeah, I don't tend to have as much of the actual game content, much as I might like to, but yeah. So anyway, guys, thanks for tuning in. I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.